Video 11, Basic Terminology of Nichiren Shoshu continued. Threefold Secret Teaching, Sanju Hiden. This principle indicates three levels of comparison: the comparison between the Lotus Sutra and the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings, the comparison between the essential teaching and the theoretical teaching, the comparison between the Buddhism of the sowing and the Buddhism of the harvest. 26 High Priest Nichiren Shonin used this term when he interpreted the following passage from the, quote, opening of the eyes, unquote, Kaimoku Sho. The doctrine of Ichen and Sanzen, 3,000 realms in a single life moment, is hidden only in the depths of the lifespan Juryo's 16th chapter of the essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra, Gosho, page 526. The, quote, doctrine of Ichen and Sanzen, unquote, signifies actual Ichen and Sanzen. It indicates the object of worship of the Buddhism of the sowing hidden in the depths of the sutra. This object of worship was established by Nichiren Daishonin. In all of Shakyamuni's sutras, this object of worship is explained only in the Lotus Sutra based on the comparison between the Lotus Sutra and the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings. Of all the chapters in the Lotus Sutra, this object of worship is explained only in the lifespan chapter of the essential teaching based on the comparison between the essential teaching and the theoretical teaching. Furthermore, it is not expressed in the surface meaning of the words of the lifespan chapter of the essential teaching. High Priest Nichiren Shonin finally concluded that the true object of worship is hidden only in the depths of the lifespan chapter based on the comparison between the Buddhism of the sowing and the Buddhism of the harvest. Transmigration of the six paths. This term represents the vicious cycle of people's suffering in this human world. The six paths are hell, hunger, animality, anger, humanity, and heaven. The transmigration of the six paths is the continual cycle of birth and death in the six lower worlds that unenlightened beings undergo. This cycle is likened to a constantly turning wheel. The transmigration of the six paths means that unenlightened beings suffer endlessly as a result of being controlled by their earthly desires or karma accumulated from past lives. True Buddha of time without beginning. This term indicates the true Buddha of the infinite past of Kuan Ganjo. In Shakyamuni's Buddhism, the same term indicates the Buddha who attained enlightenment in the inconceivably remote past. The Daishonin reveals in the, quote, true object of worship, unquote, Kanji no Hanzen Sho, quote, that the Daishonin, the true Buddha of the infinite past of Kuan Ganjo, is the true Buddha of time without beginning. True cause, Honimyo. This term refers to the practice carried out by the Buddha and is used to contrast the term true effect. There are two meanings to true cause: the true cause of the surface meaning of the words in Buddhism of the harvest, and the true cause of the Buddhism of the sowing hidden in the depths. The true cause of the surface meaning of the words is the original practice that Shakyamuni carried out as the cause of his attainment of enlightenment in the age of 500 myriad dust particle kalpas ago. In the lifespan Juryo's 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni declared, "Once I also practiced the Bodhisattva austerities, and the life that I then acquired has yet to be exhausted. My life will last yet twice as many aeons from now." Hokekyo, page 433. The great teacher Tentai interpreted the above passage in his Words and Phrases of the Lotus Sutra, Hokeki Mongu. He stated that when Shakyamuni practiced the Bodhisattva austerities and attained the first stage of stability, he attained a partial understanding of the mystic law, and with this wisdom, he was able to attain an eternally enlightened life. However, the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra does not expressly reveal the law and practice that Shakyamuni upheld in order to attain the first stage of stability. End quote. The transmission of the threefold secret teaching, unquote. 26 High Priest Nichiren Shonin elucidates as follows. The true cause of Shakyamuni's enlightenment, hidden in the depths, which he never clearly disclosed, is the entity of actual Ichinen Sanzen, 3,000 realms in a single life moment, which was also realized by the true Buddha in the infinite past of Kuan-Ganjo at the stage of first hearing the name of the law. This itself is the original practice that the true Buddha carried out. 6-volume writings, page 28. In the Gosho, quote, the teaching affirmed by all Buddhas of the three existences, unquote. Prior to the time of 500 myriad dust particle kalpas ago, when Shakyamuni Buddha was a common mortal, he realized that his body was composed of the 5 elements of earth, water, fire, wind, and space, and he instantly attained enlightenment. Gosho, page 1419. The cause of the true Buddha's enlightenment, hidden in the depths, is the law of the simultaneity of cause and effect. In other words, the true cause of his enlightenment was his realization that his body was composed of the 5 elements of earth, water, fire, wind, and space, as a common mortal at the stage of first hearing the name of the law. The true effect was that as a result, he instantly attained enlightenment. The true entity of all phenomena, shohojisosho, quote, all phenomena, unquote, indicates all existences and phenomena, while, quote, true entity, unquote, indicates the real and actual nature of what things are. In other words, all existences manifested as actual phenomena are the true aspect and reality of matters as they are. The, quote, true entity, unquote, is equivalent to, quote, the truth, unquote, in Mahayana Buddhism. Definitions of the, quote, true entity, unquote, differ among various religious sects depending on whether their teachings are shallow or profound. In the Lotus Sutra, one interpretation of the, quote, true entity of all phenomena, unquote, is based on theoretical Ichinen Sanzen, 3,000 realms in a single life moment, as taught in the theoretical teaching. The other interpretation is based on actual Ichinen Sanzen as taught in the essential teaching. The, quote, true entity of all phenomena, unquote, in a real sense, is the actual Ichinen Sanzen hidden in the depths of the lifespan Juryo's 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, to which the true Buddha of the infinite past of Kuan-Ganjo awakened. The true Buddha manifested this realization in the form of the Gohonzon. True high sanctuary and relative high sanctuary. The true high sanctuary is the place where the Daigo Honzon of the high sanctuary of the essential teaching is enshrined. The relative high sanctuary is the place where the Gohonzon transcribed by the successive high priest are enshrined at Nichiren Shoshu temples and in believers' homes. The Daishonin states, when the sovereign embraces the law, establish the true high sanctuary of Honmonji Temple at Mount Fuji, Gosho, page 1675. In this passage, the Daishonin gives us the directive to establish the true high sanctuary where the Daigo Honzon of the high sanctuary of the essential teaching is to be enshrined upon the achievement of Kosen Rufu. True object of worship, Kanjin Nihonzon Sho. This is one of the 5 major writings of Nichiren Daishonin. He wrote this Gosho at the age of 52 in Ichinosawa on Sado Island on the 25th day of the 4th month in the 10th year of the Budnei era, 1273. This writing reveals the object of worship in terms of the law. The full title reads, quote, on the object of worship, manifesting the true Buddha's entity and his enlightenment, originating in the 5th 500-year period after the Buddha's passing, unquote. 2 transfer documents. Nikasojo. These are the two transfer documents. Quote, document for entrusting the law that Nichiren propagated throughout his life, unquote, and quote, Minobu-san transfer document, unquote, in which the Nichiren Daishonin designated Nikko Shonin as his legitimate successor. The Daishonin wrote the, quote, document for entrusting the law that Nichiren propagated throughout his life, unquote, at Minobu in the 9th month of the 5th year of Kon, 1282, to certify the transfer of the entity of the entirety of his teachings, the Daigo Hunzen of the high sanctuary of the essential teaching, to Nikko Shonin. The, quote, Minobu-san transfer document, unquote, was written by Nichiren Daishonin at the residence of Ikagimi Munanaka on the 13th day of the 10th month in the same year, the day of his passing, and appointed Nikko Shonin the chief priest of Minobu-san Koonji Temple. The Buddhism of the sowing, hidden in the depths of the lifespan, Juryo, 16th chapter, transmitted to Nikko Shonin, has been correctly passed down within Nichiren Shoshu through the heritage of the law, entrusted to only one person by the successive high priests. These two transfer documents are proof of the transmission of the heritage of the law. The, quote, document for entrusting the law that Nichiren propagated throughout his life, unquote, states, I, Nichiren, transfer the entirety of the law that I have propagated throughout my life to Byakuren Ajari Nikko, and designate him the great master of propagation of the essential teaching. When the sovereign embraces this law, establish the true high sanctuary at Honmonji Temple at Mount Fuji. You must await the time. This is the true law of precepts. Above all else, my disciples must obey this document. The 9th month in the 5th year of Kon, 1282. Nichiren's signature mark, the order of the heritage of the law from Nichiren to Nikko, Gosho, page 1675. The, quote, Minobu-san transfer document, unquote, states, I transfer Shakyamuni Buddha's 50 years of teachings to Byakuren Ajari Nikko. He is to be the chief priest of the Mount Nobu-san Koanji Temple. Laity or priests who disobey him go against the law. The 13th day of the 10th month in the 5th year of Kon, 1282, Ikegami, Bushu Province, signature, Nichiren, Gosho, page 1675. Uncreated and unadorned, three enlightened properties. This is one of the terms used to describe the characteristics of the true Buddha of the Buddhism of the sowing, quote, uncreated and unadorned, unquote. In Japanese, originally means a natural and unadorned being. The uncreated and unadorned three enlightened properties signifies a natural and unadorned being possessing the three enlightened properties, the property of the law, the property of wisdom, and the property of compassionate action. This also indicates that, in contrast to the provisional Buddhas with magnificently adorned and sublime appearances, the true Buddha possesses within himself the three enlightened properties as a common mortal. The 26th high priest Nichiren Shonin interprets this in his exegesis on, quote, the essentials of the Lotus Sutra, unquote. The uncreated and unadorned three enlightened properties means in a broad sense all living beings. However, in a narrow sense, it represents those who take faith in and correctly practice the Daishonin's Buddhism. And to be even more specific, it refers only to the true Buddha of the latter day of the law, Nichiren Daishonin, whose true and ultimate identity is an uncreated and unadorned being endowed with the three enlightened properties. Mondan, page 514. A passage in the, quote, orally transmitted teachings, unquote, Agnikuden states, the uncreated and unadorned three enlightened properties is the Votary of the Lotus Sutra in the latter day of the law. Its venerable name is Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Thus, the Daishonin himself is the embodiment of the natural and unadorned being endowed with the three enlightened properties and is also the true entity of Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. The same Gosho further goes on to say, the uncreated and unadorned three enlightened properties was attained with one word. That single word is, quote, faith, unquote. Gosho, page 1766. This passage teaches that by embracing, taking faith in, and practicing Myoho Renge Kyo, we, the people in the latter day of the law, can also develop the virtue of the natural and unadorned state endowed with the three enlightened properties. Votary of the Lotus Sutra. This term literally signifies a person who practices the Lotus Sutra precisely as it teaches. This is important when discussing the life of Nichiren Daishonin as the true Buddha in the latter day of the law. In the Encouraging Devotion Kanji 13th chapter, it is stated that the practitioner of the Lotus Sutra will be cursed and abused, attacked with swords and staves, and repeatedly banished. Only the Daishonin underwent all these persecutions. A passage from, quote, The Selection of Time, unquote, states, there is no doubt at all that Nichiren is the sole votary of the Lotus Sutra in Japan, Gosho, page 864. Through his behavior, the Daishonin proved to be the votary of the Lotus Sutra by living these predictions exactly as they were stated in the Lotus Sutra. The, quote, orally transmitted teachings, unquote, Agni Kuden reads, in actuality, Nichiren directly received the transfer of the essence of the Lotus Sutra at Eagle Peak, Gosho, page 1773. Thus, the votary of the Lotus Sutra is the reincarnation of Bodhisattva Jogyo, who had received the essence of the Lotus Sutra in the wondrous powers of the Tathagata Jinriki 21st chapter of the Lotus Sutra. He is the one who will propagate Myoho Renge Kyo in the latter day of the law. The subsequent passage of the same Gosho states, the object of worship is the very entity of the life of the votary of the Lotus Sutra. Ultimately, the Daishonin is the object of worship, the Gohanzen, the true Buddha of the infinite past of Kuon Ganjo, who appeared as the votary of the Lotus Sutra in the latter day of the law. Without beginning or end, Mushi Mushu. This term signifies the eternal nature of the three enlightened properties of the Buddha. The Buddhas of the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings are transient beings. They have their beginnings and ends. In the Gosho quote on determining the superiority of the Lotus Sutra over the Shingon teachings, unquote, the Daishonin explains that provisional Mahayana Buddhism describes the eternal nature of the property of the law of the Buddha. The essential teaching of the Lotus Sutra, however, reveals the eternal nature of the three enlightened properties of the Buddha. Gosho, page 310. Only the Buddha, simultaneously possessing all three enlightened properties, can have the attribute of, quote, without beginning or end, unquote. In the Buddhism of the Sowing, quote, without beginning or end, refers to the true Buddha of the infinite past of Kuon Ganjo. In the latter day of the law, it is Nichiren Daishonin, the true Buddha, who possesses the attribute of, quote, without beginning or end, unquote. Women's attainment of Buddhahood, Nyonen Jobutsu. This term indicates women's potential to attain enlightenment, which was denied in the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings, but was revealed for the first time in the Lotus Sutra. I'll just interject here. That means Zen, Tibetan Buddhism, the Dalai Lama, Southeast Asian Buddhism, everything you see on Facebook everywhere and just about everywhere online, they deny that women can be enlightened. Yet, people still follow them. In quote, on women's attainment of Buddhahood, unquote, Nichiren Daishonin states, according to the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings, women were not able to attain Buddhahood, just like those of the two vehicles, because they put restrictions on others and were said to hinder practitioners from seeking the Buddha way. Gosho, page 344. Only the Lotus Sutra teaches the principle of women attaining enlightenment. The Devadatta, 12th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, discusses the Dragon King's daughter who instantly transformed into a man and attained enlightenment. However, Shakyamuni merely used this event as an expedient to teach his audience, including Shariputra and Prajnakuta, so they could eliminate their attachment to the idea that women were incapable of achieving enlightenment. The Daishonin further states, in quote, on women's attainment of Buddhahood, unquote, It is mystic that the Dragon King's daughter, who was in the world of animality, instantly attained Buddhahood without changing her present form. Ibid. Summary. The Daishonin teaches in the Gosho, quote, reply to Myo-o-ama, unquote, even if the sun and moon were to fall to the ground or Mount Sumeru were to collapse, a woman who takes faith in and practices true Buddhism in the latter day of the law would be able to attain enlightenment without fail. Gosho, page 1482.